one because we're going to run out of time.
Yep.
I think you want me to
what's number two? Yeah, what's number two?
He said that it's not direct selling, which is correct. Amway and MLM companies used to be direct selling. They used to go door to door, and their focus used to be selling things to customers. That has shifted to, instead of selling to customers, what you're doing is you're selling franchises and an opportunity. You're not worrying about selling the product. You're worried about selling the opportunity to somebody. You're saying, hey, I can help you become a multi-millionaire. Follow me. I can help you become rich. And quite simply, direct selling does not exist anymore. I mean, I can't recall the last time. I was thinking last night, when was the last time a direct salesperson came to my door? And I was thinking, I've been in this house for 18 months. It hasn't happened at this house. And then I think it might have happened at my old house. But I don't reckon someone's come to my door to sell me a product in 5 years. And yet, there's supposedly millions and millions of direct sellers in Australia. It's clearly a lie. It's clearly not true. What we have are millions of people trying to sell a fake franchise or a business opportunity where they can become financially free forever. It's just simply false. It's not direct selling. Marco's 100% right. It's not direct selling.
Well, I view direct selling and MLM as very different from each other. With direct selling, there's no upline, there's no downline. Every distributor is connected directly to the company, and Amway has never been a direct selling company. Amway has always been an MLM. Now, there may or may not have been more selling to customers going on, but that does not make Amway a direct selling company. That makes them an MLM with more retail sales. And so that's really apples and oranges as far as I'm concerned. Because it's a completely different business model, and there's a lot more incentive in an MLM, as you said, Glenn, to recruit more people, and it's mainly because the products are overpriced and you can't find customers. People don't want to pay for overpriced products in general, and so the only people you can find that are willing to buy the overpriced products are people that also want to become distributors and become wealthy, like their upline is telling them. So, to me, those are two very different things as far as, the pitch, so to speak. Peter, what's your take on that?
Well, in my world, we used to use a definition of direct sales is when you go to them. Retail sales is when they come to you. So Amazon would be a retail sale. Walking into a department store would be a retail sale. Walking into a nutritional center would be a retail sale. And then if a sales rep was involved talking to you outside of that, so if you made a phone call, sent you an email, sent you a text, knocked on your door, did a trade show, any or all those things, that would be my definition of direct sales. So I would agree with Glenn that door-to-door direct sales is going down. But other types of direct sales may have taken their place. So direct sales itself is still viable. Whether it's super growing or not, I'm not sure. That part I don't have the stats on. The door-to-door part definitely has gone down. Party plans may have gone up depending on the industry. But people still selling over the phone, through email, through text. My definition of direct sales, the salesperson going to the customer as opposed to the customer going to the salesperson, there's a lot of people still actively involved in direct sales.
But when you start in Amway, you're on 3%. So that means imagine you're a really great salesperson. You went and you sold $300 worth of Amway products. You would earn $9. Is that not proof that it is not direct selling? Because nobody can make a living selling products to customers.
So only people that don't have direct sales backgrounds use the argument that you're using. So only people that don't have direct sales backgrounds using your arguments. Here's the dirty facts about direct selling. The new guys always earn the smallest commissions because the new guys come and go. Turnover is necessary and usual in direct sales. So it's the guys
you can't do Amway and just sell products.
Hold on one second. So in direct sales, it is very common for the new guy to start off at the lower commission, and based on either his sales or his accomplishments as far as recruiting, meaning produce other salesmen. Recruiting isn't a negative term except for an MLM guy. So for recruiting, which means build your sales force, that's how you earn bigger commissions. I'll use an example. I think when I started with Electrolux, my beginning commission was 20%. And then I had to gain up to at least 10 sales. And then I think I went up to like 25 or 30%. And then when I hit, I don't remember the number, they gave me back the difference. Like, for instance, if I hit 50 sales, this is wrong numbers. So I don't remember the numbers because then we're talking about 30-some-odd years ago. So if I hit, say, 30 sales, not only did I get the higher commission, but they paid me back the commissions that I didn't earn. So the difference between the 20 and 30, the 25 and 30 and stuff like that. They gave me an incentive for sticking around and make sure I hit the 30. In the encyclopedia business, same thing. New guy started off with the smallest commission. After your 10th sale, you get bumped up a commission. After your 50th sale, you get bumped up a commission. So the new guys always in the direct sales business model, I shouldn't say always, lots of times in the direct sales business model start off at a smaller commission. And only people that are... What's that?
Not 3%. Amway starts at 3%.
They start at 3%. If they get people to start off at 3, if they get people to start off with 3, you're absolutely right. That's the reason why I quit Amway 3 times, Glenn. So we're in agreement there. That's the reason why I quit. I said, I can't figure out how you guys make any money here. I need to make... When I was thinking about transitioning out from Electrolux to anything else, I needed to have a $200,000 a year lifestyle. So that's where I was, $200,000 a year. And I looked at that Amway compensation plan, and I said, how the hell, with this shitty plan, does anybody ever... How can they ever... I mean, you have to move truckloads of stuff. I mean, mountain loads of stuff to be able to get to $200,000 in a yearly income based on the commissions from the sales. This sucks. That's why I quit 3 times. And when I found out most of the massive profit was made on the tools on the backs of the newer people, that's why I left. So you and I are in agreement with direct sales and small commissions, but lots of direct sales companies do that. So that's not necessarily the sign of a bad company. It's a common practice. If you take a look at those insurance guys pay, this is the argument he had against WFG. Those insurance guys make a little bit of money, number one, because in insurance, you get advance commissions, which is worse, meaning when the customer cancels, you owe it back. So a manager has to owe back whatever the new guy got paid and quit. So it's worse than a cancellation. It's not only did I get a cancellation, I have to pay back the commissions I didn't even get if you're the branch manager. So that's just the business model behind direct sales and direct sales management that every MLM or every anti-MLM person that I've spoken to or listened to has no clue. They have no clue. But if you talk to a direct sales manager, like I listened to one of Marco's guys trying to explain this, but he didn't realize how stupid Marco was. So he wasn't able to get to that point where, Marco, you don't understand. This isn't just insurance. This is direct sales. You think it's shitty commissions. This is the way the direct sales industry treats their new people. And it doesn't treat their new people this way because they don't like new people. They love new people. They recruit new people. They want their new people to succeed. They want their new people to sell a shitload of stuff. But their new people quit for tons of reasons, having nothing to do with anything. New people quit. And as a result of that, if we're on the hook for their commissions, or we're on the hook for the advertising, or we're on the hook for all the expenses that we have to put in while we're working with somebody that quit and all that lost cost, that's why we don't pay the new guy as much. They have to stick around so they can earn it. So that's your number 2. We talked about direct sales and the idea that you've never seen a direct sales rep knock on your door.
I want to make a final point about that. Direct sales is directly selling stuff to the public. Amway does not do that. My dad has never, in 23 years, even attempted to do that.
Right, but don't get on Amway. Let's talk about...
But the reason why he hasn't done that is because the company deliberately does not incentivize him to do that. The company incentivizes him to convince people that he can make them multi-millionaires if he sells them a franchise.
By transfer buying. Buy from yourself.
And the commission is obscene. I mean, 3%. Ferrari salesmen, people that sell Ferraris, get more than 3%. Realtors or real estate agents, as we call them here, they make more than 3% selling $1 million house.
Correct.
It's lunacy. 3% on LOC and toothpaste. It's beyond nonsensical.
So how do you make a shitty compensation plan attract people to join? You wrap it in a tool scam. So you do all the things you agree upon. Okay, so what's point number 3? Because I don't want to ring. I know, and I set this up for an hour, but don't get disconnected because you won't be able to call back in. But I know we're going to go over an hour. But go for number 3. We might have to have you come back. So this is a good, lively conversation.
At every single Amway meeting, they say the same thing. Anyone can do it. Well, that's not true. And you would know. You were a salesman. Being a salesman is a skill. It's a complex skill. Not everyone has that skill. Not everyone has the ability to learn that skill, the self-confidence and to approach people, to approach somebody and say, I can help you become a multimillionaire part-time. That's incredibly skillful. And there's an incredibly small percentage of the population that actually has that skill. Some people, you could get them the greatest salesperson on planet Earth, and they would not be able to learn that skill. So when Marco says that, what he says about that is he's absolutely spot on again.
Okay, so we let you do your 6 so far, so you're picking 3 that we would all agree with. Yep. So what's the next one?
So we agree with basically the first 3, and then the definition.
Well, we agree that it's sold. I agree that it's sold wrong. The idea that you say everybody can do it was never the way that we recruited people in my businesses, but it's the way that a lot of MLM people do it. Everybody can do it. All you do is get 2, but get 2. Or like Marco says, get 5 or get 5 or get 5. But we'll talk about that later.
But I think Marco did a very good job of actually explaining that. He also talks about the mindset training. And he says that mindset training is endless. So that's what's great about, for the company's point of view, the mindset training is because when someone fails, you just say, well, your mindset's not right yet. And they're thinking, well, I've bought 150 tapes over a 5-year period. Oh, you got to buy more tapes. You got to go to more functions. I remember my father. There was a function on in Melbourne that cost $230. This is in 2001, and his view was that this was going to be a life-changing night. This was a $230 investment in himself, and this was going to change his whole damn life. Didn't change his life, and then a couple of months later, he was going to another expensive function, and that one was going to change his whole life. So, yeah, when Marco talks about the mindset training, it's a good con because it's endless. It's very hard to disprove that it didn't work. You can just say, well, the person didn't listen, didn't pay attention. It's a classic. It's a
common theme in the self-development industry. The book that you didn't read is the one that you have to, the one that you missed. You got to come to the next invention. Tony Robbins, you got to be at the next level. They're always selling the next event when the last event is almost over. So I agree with you. So guys, Glenn, you picked 4 easy ones that you knew we would agree with. We're going to have you come back, and we're going to have to go over our list. But what's number 5?
They talk about the fact that everything is about to collapse. I remember in 2001, Amway in Australia was saying that in 20 years' time, there's not going to be pensions. The government can't afford pensions. We've got an aging population. There's going to be no pensions. Well, here we are, 23 years later. There's still pensions. They're always saying the share market's going to collapse. It hasn't collapsed in Australia. The housing market's going to collapse. They were saying this 23 years ago. The housing market's never been higher. Everything's always about to collapse, and it never does, but they keep saying it. Today, I got in an argument with my father about 2 months ago. Here in Australia, interest rates are going up, and his dad's gone, they told me this was going to happen. They told me the interest rates were going to rise, and they told me that the house prices were going to fall. And I said, hang on, you were saying that to me in 2001. And then he called me a negative dickhead and hung up the phone.
Oh, that sucks.
But this is the sort of... Marco's
absolutely
right again.
He's that brainwashed. Cult-like brainwashing. Absolutely. Yeah, wrong thinking. I agree.
It's always... everything's going to collapse.
I get it.
MLM
we get it. We agree.
Always,
we agree.
Yeah.
You picked 5 easy ones. Go ahead. Where's the 6th easy one? We're going to... Scott, we have to have him come back.
I was going to make another point. They're always saying that the MLM industry is about to explode. And actually, when I got in, they didn't call Amway in Australia in the early 2000s, they used to call it A2K. Have you guys heard that before? A2K?
No.
Yeah. So when you were prospecting people, you would call it A2K, and you would tell it like it was a new business, a brand new business, and you got to get in on the ground floor. And they were talking about A2K, which was Amway, as if it was like Google. If you don't act quickly, you're going to miss it. But, they're always changing definitions, and they're always changing the names. Over there, they called it Quick Start. But, the thing about Amway is it never, ever changes. Stories change, their story changes, their doomsday predictions change. But it hasn't changed in 50 years, really. And then, again... So, I'm perplexed because you guys are talking about how terrible Marco's speech was, and yet I've just listed a heap of things that he said, and we all agree on it. Marco talks about, another thing he talked about was the MLM is just a Ponzi scheme with extra steps. I know Scott has said that on his radio show many a time, and he's spot on. Do you agree with that, Peter?
No. It's not an accurate statement, and he would have to defend what he said.
Has Scott said that? I've heard Scott say that. Or am I...
That's just I don't know if Scott said that. I've heard Marco say that, but I think that's like a statement that's made that needs an explanation. Like, what the hell are you talking about? You better explain that, pal, because I don't think you know what you're talking about.
It's
like one of those cliches that people say, like, oh, the tough get going and whatever, if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. That's like one of those statements that people say without thinking. So he'd have to sit here and explain that. So why don't you explain that? How could it be a Ponzi scheme with multiple steps?
Well, a Ponzi scheme is really simple. You give me $100, I'll give you $200. With Amway, it's you give me it's the same structure, but there's lots of extra steps. You've got to go out and you've got to get training first, and then you've got to go to functions, and then you've got to prospect people. So it's the same business structure, but there's a lot of extra steps, and that gives them more scope for saying you didn't do it right, you made an error. Whereas if it's just a flat out, you give me 100, I'll give you 200, you can't blame the person for that. So to me, MLM is a very, very sophisticated version of a Ponzi scheme. The Ponzi scheme was very simplistic, very easy to figure out. This is massively more complex. And
so there's a couple of things. So I'll let you answer the way Marco would answer. So a lot of people, so I got to tell you this, a lot of people, including myself, for most of my career, would have not been able to explain the difference between a pyramid and a Ponzi scheme. So most people, including myself, until I started doing this kind of stuff, like running my own company and all that sort of stuff, so most people, including myself, would have gotten the definition to what is a Ponzi scheme and what is a pyramid scheme wrong. So I'm throwing myself in that pile. So if there's 100 people listening in and you're all not experts, most of us would probably get it wrong. So what do you think Marco's definition of a pyramid versus Marco's definition of a Ponzi scheme is?
And I'll say this in the most simplistic way possible, and I think Marco would nod his head in agreement. Basically, all the revenue in a Ponzi scheme comes from Ponzi scheme investors. In an MLM, all the revenue is coming from MLM participants. All the Amway whatever revenue Amway's got, 99.something% of it is coming from Amway IBOs. So it's the same thing. In a Ponzi scheme, the revenue is coming from the people in the Ponzi scheme, trying to sell the Ponzi scheme. And in an MLM, all the revenue is coming from the people in it. All the Amway revenue is coming from Amway IBOs, distributors, whatever the hell you want to call them. So the revenue is all coming from the same place, and it's all coming this closed loop circuit. Now, to me, any business that doesn't have outside consumption, which is what Scott talks about a lot, retail sales, it's a sophisticated Ponzi scheme. Amway, to me, is a very, very sophisticated Ponzi scheme. And if the man who invented...
Hold on 1 second. Do you mean... I'm going to ask you to think your question through. Yeah. Wouldn't you really mean, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, I just want you to think it through, Amway would not be a sophisticated Ponzi scheme, it would be a sophisticated pyramid scheme.
Correct.
Not a Ponzi.
Same thing. To me, Ponzi and pyramids, I mean, to me, a pyramid scheme or an MLM is just a sophisticated version of a Ponzi scheme.
Okay,
it's more sophisticated.
So here's...
I've been back for a couple minutes, Peter, if I could interject real quick.
Sure, but what I just want to say this, Scott.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know you were gone.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to throw I threw myself under the bus as well. I was in this industry for a really long time, at high levels, at a really long time, high income levels at a really long time, and when called to task, like tell me the difference between a pyramid and a Ponzi, I would have gotten it wrong. I would have thought I had it right, but as I started to explain it away and really start to think about it, I would have realized that maybe my definitions need to be clarified. So I just wanted to say that just in case you missed it when you were off. So by the way, so some of the people listening in, Scott had to take a separate call, and he might have been gone for a while, so if he was not interrupting me, it was because he was probably on the other line. So go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, I've been here for a couple minutes, so I have heard the last of the discussion. So to me, the difference between a Ponzi and a pyramid, first of all, a Ponzi is usually something that you are passively invested in. You know, it's, hey, buy my stock, I'll give you a return, but the returns are not real. The records are fake. And when you want to get money, early on you can get money because new investors' money is used to pay for your made-up profits. And so the whole thing is, you know, just a big illusion, basically, a Ponzi. And it's passive. And it's also pretty much single level, right? There's one guy or one very small group of people, like with Madoff, very small group of people who know what's going on. The rest of them are investors, and a lot of them are extremely wealthy investors. And you would think they were smart investors, but they got fooled because, you know, people like Madoff are very well respected, and he also sort of did another baiting thing like we were talking about with MLM and telling you that someone's going to say this is not a good deal, and then it's bias confirmation. Well, what Madoff did was when people said that they wanted to invest, he would decline them, even though they were, plenty wealthy, they had plenty of money, and he played hard to get. He played hard to be invested with, and that just gave an extra illusion of this is really special. I mean, this guy is really good. This must be a great investment because he's not taking new money. And so it's a similar lie, but it's different now.
Can I just say one thing?
Yep.
This is what Amway is now doing. That they say, I'm working with some millionaire mentors. I'm not sure if you're qualified, but I will put in a good word for you. That is now what Amway does. Absolutely. Now, so that's a Ponzi, right? All those things I just said.
We call that technique, Glenn. We call that technique kind of like posturing. So posturing is the technique where they do the edification and they make it hard to get and all that sort of stuff. Like, I'll put in a good word for you. I don't know if you qualify, blah, blah, blah. That's a push-pull technique that a lot of people might call posturing. So for those people who are familiar with, if you want to put a label on it, that's what it is. So go back to you, Scott.
My label would be, I'd call that lying.
It is. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Kind of faking. It's like when you go into the car dealership and the guy says, I don't know if I can ask my manager to give you that, the spoked wheels instead, would you take it? And then he gets up and goes to the coffee machine. The manager talks shit, and then he comes back. He says, oh, he's running a real tough drive. He's going to cost you $100, but he said he would do it. That's sales techniques, if you will, and that's universally, sometimes manipulative practices. So back to you, Scott.
Yeah, it's MLM and non-MLM, no doubt. So here's the difference between an MLM and a Ponzi. MLM, you're active, right? You're actively building a business. Now, it is true that only the people towards the top know what's really going on, but it's a larger group than a Ponzi. But it's still a situation where the people at the top know what's going on, and most of the downline do not know. But it's an active business. You're out there building your own business, and it takes activity. You have to train people. It's not you put some money in and you sit back and wait for a return. So that's where I don't agree with Marco when he says that MLM is a Ponzi with extra steps, because vastly different.
I heard you say that before. Ponzi scheme is. I thought I heard you. Maybe I'm incorrect. I've watched so much MLM stuff that I thought you said that it's a Ponzi scheme with extra steps. Or am I confused?
No, that's Marco. I've never said that. That's Marco.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never said that.
I know we have new people listening in, and we're almost done. But for a real-world definition that's somewhat controversial, in the United States we have something called Social Security, and Social Security is a Ponzi scheme. So when it was first designed, there was one old guy and 10 young workers, and the 10 young workers were providing a portion of their checks to pay for the one old guy. And whether it's 10 to 1 or 35 to 1 or whatever the number was, depends on what year you're going to start to reference. So a Ponzi scheme is when new investors' monies pay old promises. Because you promise the old guy you're going to be able to retire. So the 10 new guys were contributing to make sure that one guy was there. Well, the reason why it's a Ponzi scheme is because now the numbers are maybe 1 out of 2. There's one old guy and there's 2 new guys. There's not enough new guys to pay for the old promises. So that's kind of like a Ponzi. So Social Security in the United States is a Ponzi. I don't know what it might be in Canada. But you don't have enough new people to be able to support the old promises that you are making. That's why I say, Glenn, how is Amway a Ponzi? It's really not a Ponzi. Now you can debate that.
What you just said about the Social Security system, I said before how Amway in 2001 said in 20 years' time there was going to be no pensions. And the reason they gave was exactly word for word what you just said. They said in 20 years' time, so 2021, 2 years ago, there's going to be no pensions in Australia. Therefore, you'd better grow an MLM business now or you're going to be homeless because you're not going to get a pension off the government. Now, that hasn't happened in Australia. There's still pensions in Australia. But what you just said, you've left out one very, very important thing about an aging population is immigration. At any point in time, the government can let in as many immigrants as they want. We've got a population here of 26 million. If the government wanted to, tomorrow, they could let in another 15 million people, and they could make them all working age. So this idea that we're going to run out of workers and there's not going to be enough taxpayers, that's complete rot, because the government is in complete control of the population. We've got 26 million here. If the government wanted to, they could make it 75 million. They literally, or they could have no immigration for 20 years, and then our population would shrink. But the government have complete control over whether to grow our population or whether to shrink our population. So this scare tactic of there's not going to be pensions because there's not going to be enough workers to pay for them is completely wrong.
Right.
Social
well, that
Security
would be
not a
in reference to your story. That would be the government controlling the Ponzi. So let's go back to pyramid.
Amway was wrong when they said there's going to be no pensions in 20 years.
Amway's wrong with it. Amway. I shouldn't say Amway's wrong. Amway upline or Amway leadership is wrong because we don't know. I don't think Amway is going to sit there and say those things. So Amway leadership, the person at the microphone isn't Amway. He's the Amway leader or the Amway.
20,000 people.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so were you done with your 6?
I'm actually waiting for you guys to tell me what he said that was wrong.
I think, Scott, first of all, I only had an hour for this show.
Yeah,
so,
I feel like I've gone through almost everything he said, and you guys have almost agreed with it. I think you agreed with everything he said.
We took your 6. So,
what's he said that's wrong?
Scott, I think we're going to have him come back because we could go on for probably another 3 weeks. But I wanted to give you the ability to discuss what you thought was brilliant. So we'll give you an opportunity to kind of discuss the things that we probably think are less than that. So Scott?
I think I missed a couple of them. So what I'll do is listen to this show, and when we get back next week, if you're available, Glenn, we'll do it 1 week from now. I'll make any comments that you made of your 6 that I did not hear, and then we'll continue with my take on Marco and his presentation, and we'll go right down the list. I sent you that email. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but that's the full list of notes that I took after watching Marco's presentation. I think we can wrap it for now and meet in a week. How's that sound?
Can I just finish with something though, guys?
Yes,
I'm just now having a look at your channel, Scott. You've got some really, really good stuff on here. the Andy Andrews Quick Star video. It's an absolute tragedy that so few people have seen it. 2,500 people have seen it. This really lifts the lid on the Amway tool scam. It's a tragedy that so few people have watched this. That's why I'm literally desperate for you guys to debate Marco, or to at least let me moderate it. Get that on your channel. I mean, your channel's only got 70 subs. The content on your channel deserves thousands of subs. So I know you hate Marco, but Marco can help you grow the channel.
On my YouTube channel.
Yeah,
I agree. I think between
if you guys debate Marco, you'll have thousands.
We're not going to debate Marco. Marco's a pathological liar. That's the reason why we're talking to you as opposed to him, because we can have a logical conversation with you. We can't with Marco. Marco manipulates the truth. He doesn't know how to tell the truth. He constantly does it all the time. I'm not talking to Marco. So I'll talk to you.
You get more subscribers.
So here, I'm not worried about more subscribers. Our goals are not necessarily the same as Marco's goals. Marco thinks that the number of subscribers that pay him .00000 pennies are the things that make him successful. It's not how we judge success. So what we should do, Scott, is we'll have Glenn come back. But not yet. But because we're running out of time, and I have another radio show that I have to make time for. That's the only reason why I have to cut this one shorter than the last time we did this. But Scott, do you want to rattle off a couple of the points that we can talk about, so the listening audience will know, and just like bullet points, like rapid fire, and this is the things we're going to talk about on the next one, and then we'll give Glenn that list, and we'll be able to do this and wrap up the show.
Well, Glenn's got the list. I'll rattle off the first three, I guess, just to give people a taste of things, right? That's what you wanted.
Yep, that's it.
So I also noted the high school friend. Well, this is the friend that he cheated off of his math test. Marco cheated off of this friend's math test in high school. So that just goes to character. The next one,
I cheated a couple of times in school. You can't hold that against me.
I didn't mention Glenn. I just mentioned Marco.
But I think a lot of kids cheated once or twice in school. That doesn't make them a bad person.
Hold on 1 second. We're not debate. That's what we'll talk about next week. I want this Scott to rattle them off.
There you go.
So the people listening in could say that we just didn't stonewall Glenn. So we listened to your 6. So Scott, rattle off like 5, but go fast. Go fast without any explanations.
Yeah, he said he doesn't know what a pyramid scheme is. He doesn't know what a legitimate MLM is. He uses various words, alternate words for MLM, as if they were brand new. They've been around for decades. I'll stop there. There's many, many more, and we'll get into it next week. But
nobody makes any sales, and nobody makes any money selling anything in direct sales. Direct sales is dead. You could buy all your products from Amazon. I mean, those types of issues are the ones we're going to discuss. So Glenn, it was nice to hear your softball fix. but we're going to come back.
Can I just want to leave you guys what I consider to be the definition of success when it comes to MLM, being an anti-MLM or debunker. That is to get as many people as you possibly can to view you and listen to you. And the way that you guys are going to increase from 70 subscribers to thousands of subscribers is to debate Marco and stick it on your channel. Then you will get thousands of subscribers, and thousands of people are going to hear what Scott has to say about the Amway tool scam. And I'm desperate for people to learn more about the Amway tool scam. And Scott has got an extremely good knowledge of the tool scam. So it's a tragedy that he's only got 70 subscribers. We need to get more people listening to Scott about Dexter Yeager, about the horrendous Amway tool scam. And the way to do it is to debate Marco. So please, just think about it, guys. Please. Think about debating it. Please.
We'll be back. So we're done. So thanks, guys, for listening in. We'll figure out when we're going to be able to have Glenn back. Glenn, thanks for being here. You're a great sport. And
thank you
we'll
very
speak to everybody next time. Thanks, guys.
You've been listening to Building Fortunes Radio on buildingfortunesradio.com. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check us out every Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time for the designated Building Fortunes Radio segment with Peter Mingils. Be sure to check out the buildingfortunesradio.com website for our featured segments. It's been our privilege to have you